Welcome to Best Boys, a film podcast. An amateur film study podcast for the average Joe, the buffest buffs, and the cringest bingers. I'm your host, JP, and I'm joined by my brother, professional Hollywood videographer,
Kory with a story. Welcome, everybody, back to another exciting, musical-filled, whimsical, and tragic episode of Best Boys Film Podcast.
It's fun, it's fancy, and it's full of murder and racism.
Yeah,
Racism and murder.
I just dropped to my knees in the rain.
Gino, kill me now! I probably could have did something I could have did something. Or at least could have snapped my way into the intro, you know.
While the intro was playing, I just kept singing in my head, Best Boys Podcast. But I don't know. Steven Spielberg. He came back. He said now was the time to do it. They said why now, and he said it was time. West Side Story.
So yeah, this Spiel man. I feel like it's felt like a weird director to do because it's like one that every millennial child has probably seen like over half of his films on accident. You've seen them on reruns. You've seen them because you've begged to see it 1,000 times. And honestly, he's probably one of the, like, even before you get to your teen edgy phase with your Tarantinos and Finchers, when you're a kid, Spielberg is a household name, you know? Like, I knew who Steven Spielberg was as a child. I knew George Lucas, but for some reason, and like Star Wars was holy to me, but Spielberg's name was like, oh, that motherfucker makes movies. Movies.
Well, you know, me being obsessed with Jurassic Park as a kid, really just threw that in. And then my childhood friend Jared loved Indiana Jones. So between the two of us, and then Star Wars bridging that gap, it was the household names for sure. I mean, how many like Star Wars and Jurassic Park toys did we have? And everything has Lucas on it on the Star Wars end. And Steven Spielberg is just so iconic with so much stuff. And I regret not seeing a lot of these older movies until later in life, because I feel like it would have been a lot like more nostalgic to have seen it a lot. What am I trying to say? Seeing it like at the time, like I've never seen Close Encounters before, like Jaws. I didn't really see the full way until later in life, and the Indiana Jones, like Raiders of the Lost Ark, I saw young, but. A lot of these, I still haven't seen it, even looking at the list.
I've seen most. But he's made so many movies that there are several that I have not seen. I haven't seen 1941. I haven't seen The Color Purple. I haven't seen newer ones. Like the most new, I guess. I haven't seen Ready Player One. I forgot that he even did some of these. Lincoln, Warhorse, Bridge of Spies. I haven't seen any of that. I didn't see Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull.
Yeah, same.
I have seen Munich. I have seen War of the Worlds. I've seen Minority Report, AI, Saving Private Ryan, Jurassic Park 1 and 2, Schindler's List, Hook, all the Indiana Joneses except for the new one. I just realized. It's like I've seen double-digit movies of his, but he's just made so many movies.
It's crazy too, and so many of them are he gets Academy Awards nominations for like consistently.
Oh, and that's the other thing. He has his critical movies, and then he has these blockbuster family all-time like movies that like you show kids. Adventure films, I think, is what I was thinking about, like how to describe his bread and butter. Like it's sci-fi, and then there's, like Indiana Jones is just straight adventure, but there's just a sense of adventure in all those kind of films. It ties them together. And Jurassic Park's got some horror elements, but it's like there's something about it, like there's a lot of positivity in his films as well. Obviously, except for like
Yeah.
Schindler's List and some others, but generally the popular ones are very positive. And that was something I was thinking about with Close Encounters. Is that
Mm.
we live in an age where there's a lot of bleak and pessimistic sci-fi stuff, and even fantasy now with Game of Thrones is
Mm.
very bleak and very dark and very negative, and I like that shit. And it kind of is translating from the dark comics and sci-fi stuff from the '90s and the '80s, and just finally making its way to the screen over the last decade. And obviously, yeah, we're talking about over the last decade. But it's something really, really special when you can still tell a compelling tale that doesn't fill you with dread. It fills people with hope.
Mm.
And just like it makes you think, and you think about big things, but it's not in this sense of like dread and
Mm.
bleakness. And you gotta, I really, there's a really special value in that. I think, as somebody who really enjoys feeling feelings, whether they're negative or positive from watching films, that's like kind of what I'm into. Watching his films just reminds you of like being a kid, more than
Mm.
like probably anybody else. It's even like, because I mean, that's what I felt with Close Encounters. Like I hadn't seen Close Encounters as a kid. I've seen that ending scene, with the colors and the lights many
Yeah.
times, but I have not seen the whole film from front to back until last year. And this feels like a kid. Same with E.T. We watched E.T. as we've
Mm.
probably seen bits and pieces and reruns of it, but to watch it front to back as an adult a few years ago with our mom, um, it was just
Yeah, that
like
was.
it felt like being a kid again. And we weren't even alive when E.T. came out. We weren't even alive when Close Encounters came out. But we had a Jurassic Park, we had Indiana Jones, we had those things too. And
Mm.
yeah, I don't know, it's something special. And I'm sure everybody has nice things to say about Steven Spielberg, and like the importance of his movies to pop culture and to our childhoods. But yeah, I think that's about as good of an intro as you're gonna get. You have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was gonna add on to your the lack of dread and hope with Close Encounters specifically. I was the ending was just like a breath of fresh air because it's like it was new to me because I hadn't seen any of it before, um, and it felt nice to go back to something like that. That's a nice like little vague but still positive
Yeah,
ending.
not I
Uh,
wouldn't say it's even a fully happy ending, but
no, because you
there's
don't
hope
know.
in it.
Yeah,
And I
it doesn't
think
end on a downbeat.
and it's like mystery and hope and adventure. And like
Yeah.
we're going into the unknown, and it's like
Mm.
not this dread fest like I'm doomed to death. Um
Mm.
I'm going into the unknown, but it's perilous and I'm doomed to death. But it's something about like it's like old novels were more like that. Like you
Mhm.
think about like your Journey to the Center of the Earth or something like that. 1,000 Leagues, 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's like these fantasy kind of stories that like bad things and good things happen in them, and some of them have problematic things, haven't aged well. But there's like an adventure. It's more about the adventure, and getting in, but they always make it home in the end, some one way or another.
Mhm.
So what I feel like we should talk about West Side Story first. Um,
Yeah.
which honestly makes it less about Spielberg, because this movie has such the musical and movie has such a history. So
Mhm.
just to give you a brief background, is West Side Story was first written in 1957, and the old movie, came out in 1961. So when we saw this as kids, and I know we first saw this each in music class growing up,
Mm.
and I had a strong resistance to watching this movie. I think we were in a time
Mm.
where masculine you were really worried about being seen as like masculine, or you didn't want to be seen as gay or something. I mean, just to speak plainly of how it was.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so when you saw a movie like this with lots of men like dancing, and there's like it's really really good choreography, but it's like almost some of it looks ballet, like it's like very prancy, and the way that they're moving around and like the fighting and stuff, like it's something very macho but done in a very artistic and dance not artistic dance sort of way, which I think kids at the time would associate with women. And so it made us all feel like always felt weird about it, because I thought it was interesting and cool, but I was like, nah, this is lame because this isn't what, like, people would make fun of somebody who did this. And like now, so much has changed. And after doing tons of musicals when I was in high school and performing and exploring art, and obviously, other kinds of things, attitudes have changed. I think the toxic masculinity is still a thing, but I'm sure for kids in high school these days that there's not this like obsession with is this gay or not? Am I gay if I like this thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very immature. So, and it's getting off really getting off the topic, but it is something that I have always had with the history of this film and the musical. And then I remember our high school did West Side Story, I think when I was in 8th grade. It was before I went to high school and did my first musical. And that's when I thought, like, this is pretty cool. That's when my attitudes were starting to change. Because it was like I saw live a musical that I was familiar with because I saw it in music class. And it was like, I just really started looking up to these high school people that were in it, and I really wanted to. This is when I knew that I wanted to do musicals. Yeah. So I have a lot of nostalgia for the movie and the show itself. And one thing, I got a little off topic, but one thing I wanted to bring up was when the musical was when the movie was made, it was contemporary shit at the time. I think when we saw it as kids, like, it still feels like a musical about an older time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
But that was like contemporary topics and language and fashion and all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, especially when you're just watching it in fragments in, like a 40-minute class, 2.5 hour movies spread across like a month, watching it on a small, like, crappy TV. It's like hard to really even like pay attention to it and take any of it seriously, especially when you're in like for me, I think I was in like 6th grade when I watched this, and it's
Yeah, it was
like
like
I'm
6th or 7th grade, probably 8th grade, maybe.
yeah, and I'm like listening to Slipknot and System of a Down in my free time, and then this is what they put on, and like
That's
I
another thing to bring up, is that the early 2000s were a very masculine time.
yes, extreme, a lot of just anger, and
Angry,
white
yeah,
anger.
young male anger time for no reason.
Yeah, but yeah, so it was just like, and I never really liked musicals, and to this day still, like, I have my ones that I like, but for the most part it takes a lot to get me to get into one. And like you were in musicals. I only did one in middle school and just didn't have a good experience with it, so it kind of shied me away from what to do. But I appreciate it and like what it is, and watching these two now, so far, so many years removed from it, um it is there's a lot to like. There's surprisingly a lot to like.
Well,
Um
there's just so many doing it. Even I face it doing it. Is just you get pressures from your
mm,
friends that are from other things. Like my football friends would always make jokes. My sport friends would make
mm,
jokes about musical or whatever, and just like always discouraged. It was always kind of discouraging, but
yeah, I just had people messing with my costumes and stuff on the show days, and always trying to like like someone specifically got me in trouble over like a non thing to try to get me kicked out because he wanted my spot.
oh my god, I
And it was,
forgot about that.
yeah,
Oh my god,
it
I
just
forgot
kind of
about that.
soured me to musicals and theater people and everything for a
Yeah,
while.
theater people are definitely weird too. And that is totally a thing. But it's nice to be able to just enjoy it as
Yeah, that's what I
as
mean.
an
So long now.
experience of art experience rather than
Yes, as a
ex-
matured artist, in a way.
and just like expectations to like, oh, you should do this, Kory. You should be this.
Yeah, and I can just sit back and just take it as it is and enjoy it. uh, with fresh eyes and a matured perspective.
So
Um,
I think the best way to go about this is to talk about the new one and try, as we may, to focus on the new one as its own thing.
mm,
And then I think we should talk about the old one and compare and contrast.
okay.
And
Mm.
so so the new one stars Baby Driver.
Ansel Elgort. You got to
Yeah,
say the name. It's
Ansel
such a
Elgort.
and that's no disrespect to the man. He's a good actor. I like saying his name, Ansel Elgort.
Ansel Elgort. Um, and also Rachel Zegler as Maria. Arena DeBose as Anita. David Alvarez as Bernardo. Mike Faced as Riff. And the classic Rita Moreno, who was in the original 1961 as the shopkeeper Valentina. So,
Oh,
that was going to be it's going to be a quick fact. We'll talk about Rita Moreno in a minute. But what did you think about West? Did you watch this one first, right?
yeah. I watched this one first.
So did,
Or
yeah,
no,
so
no, no,
did I.
no, no. Sorry. I watched this one second. Sorry. Hmm.
Oh, so I
Yeah.
watched this one first. I'm kind of glad I did because I was trying to not compare it to the old one. I have a really hard time when things get remade of a thing I like. Is I just like every time they change a thing, I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like the changes usually,
Mm,
because I have a strong, memory of the original experience, and I don't want it to be a different experience. I think, and
mm,
this is a different experience, and I actually didn't dislike it at all. And as far as having somebody like Steven Spielberg attached to it, I kind of wasn't sure how it was going to be, especially the way that his late career movies have been. I wasn't sure what I was going to expect. But this movie is very vibrant. It's very vibrant and
mm.
colorful and also very kinetic. I think one of the biggest different. It's very. I don't want to get to the differences yet, but it's very kinetic. Like the camera moves around,
Mm,
and it does a lot more than than a musical. You're on a stage when you see a musical, and you see it from this one perspective. And musicals are really good. Theater is really good about giving you different angles and different perspective, like playing with the set and things to give you different feelings and perspective. But it's not like a movie. And this, I think, really wanted to try to make a three-dimensional musical experience.
mm,
Um, and it really did try to make it more like a film than a musical adaptation. Like it has musical numbers, but I
mm.
feel like it's less stage oriented, especially when you compare it to the old one.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I was gonna say to that note, I think that's one of the things why I like this one so much was the amount of space there was between the songs because of the added dialogue and shots and scenes and stuff. It was enough of a gap to because a lot of the times I get burned out on musicals just from like songs being back to back to
oh,
back
I don't
without
mean
the
the
plot advancing.
space. I don't mean the
Um,
space between dialogue and songs. I mean like how the camera moves in and
well,
out
yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah.
around. It's moving around. The camera's moving constantly.
Yeah, yeah, it's not like the how I guess Cats was, where it's all just they shot it like a stage, even though it was a movie. Um,
But
from
like the
what the
old
reviews
one. The
was.
old one has a lot
Yeah,
more static shots.
mm. It very much goes for just like the wide, and then your two side shots for coverage.
Yeah, there's a lot more
Uh,
closer up, more close ups.
yeah, there's
Which,
tons of steady cam in this new one.
yes, yes. Yeah, like people walking around with the camera, and it's like swinging in and pulling out, and it's moving
Mhm.
around like 360s, and the dance scene, the school dance, is probably the best example because
Oh, is that done so well?
it is actually really cool. I've never really
Mhm.
seen that scene like that shot in that way before. And it's so purple and yellow. There's a lot more color, and it just looks really good. And it has like these like glares. The lights like have this glare on them
Mhm.
a lot. and I kind of
Yeah.
wasn't sure if I liked it at first. Like I thought it might have been a little bit cheesy, but I realized it is the 50s and it is kind of this stylized kind of version of late 50s in New York.
Yeah,
Um
I was gonna. There's so many like J.J. Abrams style anamorphic flares in this movie, like intentionally. Like there are lights just set up in the background just to cause flares and to create all these like hard light scenarios. Which we'll talk about the cinematography a little bit down the road, but the
well, I mean, I'm kind of getting to that now. That's what I
oh yeah, I love the look of this movie, from the lighting standpoint. With all having said that, like so much of this movie, I don't know if you notice like the bubble. It's like a warp on the edges when it does those
Yes,
whip around
yes.
shots. It's all wide angle anamorphic to just have all of these people in the shot doing all of these things, and it's so cool. Like the anamorphic flares, you either like them or you don't like them. In this case, I think it works for the, as you were saying, the stylized, very much for like the when Ansel and or I'm sorry, Tony and Maria go into the bleachers,
Baby Driver, you
and then
mean?
and baby, his character's name's Tony.
Yeah, I know, I
Um,
know, I know.
but yeah, when Anson Elgort and Maria go into the bleachers, and then you still have all of those flares coming in and all those glints, it
Yeah,
just
that's
feels
like
very
exactly the thing
dreamy.
I'm thinking of when I'm talking about the flares. Yeah, yeah. I think the cinematography is amazing, and it's the
Mhm.
thing that makes it, I think, special versus
Yes.
other musical adaptations.
One of the things I love so much about this too in the lighting is so many things now it's very much soft lighting, and there's a lot of not as a lot rare use of just like main hard lighting throughout your whole thing. This whole movie is just hard daylight, artificial hard daylight too, coming on everybody's shoulders, blasting everybody, all the
Yeah,
sides
it's
of the
super
buildings,
bright.
and
It's
it's
super bright
uh but it looks so well with the cameras that they shot with. The I
because the
think that this
colors
is
pop.
1165. Yeah, and it's just but even those like the slums part where you have all that gray and all that, it's very bright. Even though it's still dark, it's still very bright and
Yeah, it's
fits
super.
in the world.
Yes, I agree. I
Does
agree.
that make
Yeah,
sense?
even when things are drab, they're like so lit up.
Yes,
Um,
yeah. Like the opening thing where he pops out of the thing with the paint cans from the basement, and it just like, oh, this looks like you're in like a World War I battlefield, but at the same time, it's like it's upbeat. It's not, that it's not bad or anything's like that happening because of the way everything is just like not stage lit, but just like fun daylight lit, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That is one of the biggest strengths I think of it. And I think that's what I noticed a lot of movie people I follow are giving it good reviews, and I was like, really? And I think that they were just a lot of people were on the technical side geeking out about this, and I think
mhm,
maybe some of that gets lost on me more than others. But I could totally recognize the really amazing camera work and cinematography and just the way the coloring is
mhm,
and in the costuming and set design, it just all really complements the palette
mhm,
and it's really meticulously done, the lighting, and I think that's the biggest strengths of the film, is that it makes it that's what makes it feel like a film and a movie and
mhm.
less like a musical, like on stage.
Yeah.
Even to the effect of the choreography, I think is much more toned down in this movie. The dancing, there is like big dance numbers for sure, but
Mhm.
if you compare it to the old one, I have to do that for this.
Yeah.
Because I do want to talk about the dancing in length a little bit more about the old one, but the dancing is much more subtle. Like they do like have these inspired and influenced moves that remind me of the old one or the show, on the not just the old one, but the show, the musical,
Yeah.
but it's not constant. And like they have fight scenes where they're actually fighting, and they try to like
It,
blend it more in with reality
yeah.
than it be like this this stylized fighting and stylized dance. Like the dancing fighting
Yeah.
is all part of it, and I really like the
Mm.
dance fighting, and I didn't understand it as a kid, and I think
Mhm.
maybe that's because, or maybe that's why they maybe backed off from it a little bit in this one, but it is a big difference. I think that maybe might help it be a little more digestive to younger people and modern audiences.
Yeah, I was gonna say the dancing in this one feels more purpose driven, if that makes sense. Where it's like it's insinuating on the points, and it's only the people that it needs to insinuate on, instead of having like the entire flock of dudes going through this wide number, and like this the dance break in between the things. Like when the Jets are doing their song, like walking down the streets and stuff in the beginning, or
Yeah.
later when they're all like prepping for the fight and stuff. It is, yeah, it's nice. It just, I like that this is, if I saw more musicals like this, it would tailor me to probably get into them more, because I love how much like the movie felt. It has enough to satisfy, probably I would say, like the musical side. Um
It's definitely
but it just
more concerned with being a
real.
film with music, with
Yes.
songs in it, I think.
Yeah, and I
Um,
like that. I think it's a nice mesh. I was gonna ask you real quick, while we're on this topic, did any of this seem like it was not a set, like a sound stage, to you?
yes, I was gonna say a lot of the outdoor stuff really did seem like a real locations.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you look hard enough, you could probably see that it's art and set
Yeah,
design.
yeah. Yeah, it's all
But
backlot.
yes, but they really did a good job with the sets. And honestly,
I agree.
with the old one is also all sets, but and it looks good too, but it's like it gets obvious because the way it's set,
Mhm.
it's like put together like a stage. The way it's shot like a
Yeah.
stage. And this is I think the way it's shot makes it feel more lived in. And there's more people
Mhm.
also. Like you get way bigger, you get scenes with like crowds of people in the streets and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like it feels more lived in and more real, even though it's still like super colorful and stylized and whatnot. Um, it feels a little bit more real than the
Mm.
old one is, even more stylized and more closely tied to the stage. Um, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
but there are some things I think I liked. I think I would have liked a little more. I thought the choreography is not as good to me. Like it's not like I wanted more dancing, but I think when there it was, um, I thought, like, especially with the gangs, I thought that they could have been better. Also, I think my issue, the first issues I have is like I didn't know how I felt about the gangs, the Jets
Mhm.
in particular. I actually think that the Sharks are done way better in the new one than they
Yes,
are in the old
100%
one,
agree.
and there's significant reasons of why, beyond just the performances and the casting. But I think the Jets, particularly Riff, I wasn't a big fan of the character who played Riff's performance. I thought he was.
Really?
I felt like the accents sound so much better in the original to me. In the new one, they
Yeah.
sound like they're doing like imitations of imitations. You know.
Yeah, I
Um,
wonder if that's like, because that's the accent of the time versus the someone trying to recreate. It sounds like way more it was probably a lot more natural to
Yeah,
do.
you're right. No, honestly, you're right. I don't think about that. Like I think that these are actors acting, and they probably could be around people that still talk like that when
Mhm.
the first movie was being made. Um,
Yeah.
People probably talk like that for another 5 years after it was made. Um, it's it,
I
it Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say who was my not favorite cast choice, but I can finish your what you were saying.
Yeah, I was just saying that was a complaint, but now you brought up a point why that would be. Like
Yeah.
obviously it's that accent has fallen off. So people are not going to. There's
Yeah.
less people with Yinzer accents than there probably was in in 1957. And stuff like
When you
that.
hear
It's
someone
just
doing it, it sounds so unnatural.
yeah. So it does feel like a little bit of an imitate. It doesn't feel as quite as natural. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and I hope this isn't a hot take, but I was not crazy about Ansel Elgort, Baby Driver, in this. I felt
So
like
a lot of
I
people
felt like
don't like him in this.
he had two facial expressions: slightly surprised and dead face. And I don't know. His singing was good. I thought it was
Yeah,
okay.
I thought
Like,
his singing was good.
yeah,
Um,
coming from just like the whether an actor can sing or not. I don't know what his background was, but it was pleasantly surprised at the good singing. But I just could not get into his character and how he was delivering his stuff. I don't know. I like the original Tony a lot better, I think.
I think they're similar though. I get why they casted him. I think they do have a
Yeah.
vibe. They do have a similar vibe. I Baby Driver does like Elvis face sometimes for me. Like he's like, but
Hmm.
it's like an understated. I was surprised he didn't get cast in that Elvis movie. But that everyone's really hot for that Austin Butler guy. Um, the preview for that played before freaking
Yeah, yeah.
Batman. And that's why it's in my head. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think he was fine. I thought he was fine. I mean, he's not a big emoter, but I
Mm.
actually in the scenes where he was, like fucking like around the Rumble, I thought he was
Mm.
good in all the Rumble scenes.
Yeah, I thought he was
Um,
really good in the Rumble stuff. I agree with
and
that.
like he was stiff at first, but I think that's kind of just the vibe that he has, and he opened up, and like that's what he was kind of in Baby Driver too. Like he's cool,
Mm.
but also kind of like quiet and awkward at the same time, and that's definitely what Tony is in this movie. I was fine with it. A lot of the reviews on Letterboxd from young people seem to really dunk on Ansel Elgort for
Yeah,
whatever reason. I don't know if he got canceled or something, and I just missed it.
yeah, I don't know about that, but like for me, it's just like it was hard to take the character seriously. Was like because he's given his like deadpan, no emotion, emotionless face when he's in the gym. Like it looks like he's just looking through the crowd for I don't know.
Some
Before
strange.
the show. Yeah, before the show, I said he looked like a predator lurking. And then
A lurker from Left 4 Dead.
so you got him lurking in the gym, and then he meets up with Maria or whatever, and then after that, he doesn't know where Maria lives, but he's just in the alley shouting her name and like giving his lurker face still, and until like the next song starts, and he like his voice emotes and has range and stuff, and it just felt so awkward and weird. And then did you like that him being on parole change? Uh,
So I didn't. I feel like that it was like, whoa, like if you were a jailbird in this time, like I feel like you'd be a little bit of a pariah.
yeah,
Not to the gang, but to like as far as dating material and whatnot.
yeah, and
Like
like
you
after he
almost
kills.
murdered somebody. Um,
Yeah, but then he kills the brother. It's like clearly, if I was Maria, I'd be like, "Oh, so he just has a path for murder. He has a
yeah,
taste for murder
I
because
didn't
he's
like
killed
that.
two people or almost." So it's like it makes no sense that she still was like, "You know what? I don't care how many people you've killed. Let's do this." And it made the ending feel weird having that. Like at
Yeah.
first, I was like, "All right, the parole thing gives weight to the why he can't participate in the Jets and stuff. That's cool." But then it just kind of sucked everything out of the ending and made it feel weird. It make it feel like it just didn't make sense for her to still want to like run with him because their encounter takes place over 2 days.
It's
Um,
just like it doesn't. I don't know. It seems too extreme for the character. Tony's like it's like a nice guy, but they talk about him like he used to be this real killer. And I guess they do that in
yeah,
the old one, too. But it's just more believable that he did something bad and was in like juvenile, like some kind of
mhm.
juvenile program for bad kids. Like that made more sense to me with the old one. And this one, it's like he was actually in prison as a child,
Yeah,
as a
he almost killed
17.
a man.
He's 16 in jail. Um,
Oh, that's the other thing about the age thing. I
I
don't
don't know
have
how
any
old
idea what the
anyone.
ages
Yeah,
are.
that's
'Cause
true. I don't.
Bernardo and Anita are married. When I was like, all right, well, maybe in the 50s, they had adult dances and that was
Well,
a thing.
people
Uh,
got. Yeah, that's true. They are married, and it was like really. I mean, even if they got married young, like people got married in high
yeah,
school. Our
yeah. Well,
grandparents
the
did. Um,
the only one that we get an actual age is Maria's freshly 18. She says, and she's like, she makes a line that's like, "I'm finally 18" or something when she's getting her dress ready for the
so
dance.
yeah, that would mean
And
that Bernardo and Anita are
they're
out of high
older.
school. Which why would they be at this dance? I thought
So
it
it
was a
makes me.
school dance.
I thought it was too, but after watching both of these, I was like, maybe it's just like a 50s thing where like
It's like a
adult dances were
spawn.
a thing.
But in the old
Like,
one, they specifically say this is a school sponsored dance.
oh, shit, I missed that line. But yeah,
Um,
then it just feels weird. Uh,
yeah, I actually didn't think about that. I'm glad I didn't think about that, but I don't
things
know.
I
I
think.
feel like they did change a bunch of things that maybe did need to be changed. But they didn't bother me either. Like they weren't.
Mhm.
That's how I felt about Anybody's. We talked about Anybody's. I think is a really great character. And in the old one and in the new one, and I do like that they tried to modernize it. And in the old one, it's pretty ambiguous. Is Anybody's a tomboy? Is ambiguous? Is are they gay? Are they trans? But they are like definitely a representative of like an LGBT character in this story, and it's very ahead of
Mhm.
its time. Whereas now they explicitly make Anybody's a trans character, and I think I didn't have any issues with that. There is an awkward line where they really want to make sure that gets super explicit.
Mhm.
But other than that, I really liked the character, and I was fine with the performance in this one, and I still think the character was handled well. Other than that, and yeah, yeah, I was fine with that. Other
Yeah.
changes I can't really think. I can't really think of off the top of my head. Other than like the dance, there's less dancing. The arrangements, I'm
Mhm.
not that crazy about. For these songs that I know, I didn't like the music in a lot of these. It felt very like overproduced and I don't know. It felt like too cheesy. Like it could have
Interesting.
been more orchestral sounding. It could have been more like I don't know. I don't
Yeah, there's
know.
there's definitely parts that I feel were died down and muted, but overall, I was like, oh, for a modernized take on this, I was like content with it.
Like the singing, I
I
was
got-
actually fine with, which I was worried I
Mhm.
wouldn't be. But the
Yeah.
singing I thought was good of everybody. It was
Mhm.
the music I did. But the arrangements and the music I thought was is weaker.
Mhm.
And I think that's an issue with modern musical adaptations. There's something about the way that they produce the music that just like it's too like it just sounds too produced. It's too shiny. It's too
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, it might just all be electronic at this point when they're doing it. I mean, so many
It
people
didn't
shot, except
sound
for like,
electronic, but
I
that would
mean,
be
not in like
worse.
that sense, but I
I
guess I
don't
mean
know.
more just like,
Like you mix it and stuff, the
yeah, yeah,
mixing and,
like,
and all that and the DAW. Um, but yeah, I'm sure. But I think that you could still capture like there's still really good music that
mhm.
can be more like sound like more like an orchestra pit. I think this didn't sound like that as much.
This
Um,
sound more just like a movie score, just
yes, and I think it
complementing
didn't
the
work. It
singing.
sounded like a Disney movie score, and it just didn't work for me. Um,
Interesting.
like a modern Disney movie score, not even like a classic musical cartoon.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, okay. Is there anything else we want to touch upon? I mean, the West Side Story is a classic um tale about racism and relations between people and young people and there's a lot of themes, class themes even. There's a lot that is really there's good, and I think there's a reason why this is like the first musical they try to show kids to convert,
Mm.
to give them a taste, because it's one of the best. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it is one of my favorites. Oh, I did want to talk about Rita Moreno, who plays the shopkeeper. Small role in this. She is also in the original. She plays Anita, and she's. I'm currently watching Oz right now. I'm almost done with it. I'm on the last season, and she's on Oz, which was in like the early 2000s. So in like the last week, I've seen Rita Moreno at like three different periods of her life, like like 20, 50, and 75, and it was
Just
just
checking
fun.
in,
Something I
seeing what's
wanted
up.
to mention that was kind of weird, but cool. But I'm a big fan, and but I don't really know what else there is to say about this. I don't know if this was this was more for me than I thought it was going to be. But I also
Mhm.
don't know if I don't think I'd like die to watch it again or show somebody or, I wasn't as blown away with the new one as some of the, reviews I've seen out there. How do you feel
Mhm.
about that? Because it's gotten some really good reviews.
I so when it first came out, I saw a lot of bad reviews initially saying it was just Oscar bait. But I mean, having seen it, I think I thought it was surprisingly good. I've the only issue I have mainly other than Ansel Elgort, and it's more with both of them. It's just after the everything post Rumble, I kind of feel like starts to drag, um, until it gets to the final.
Yeah, that's how both of them are. I think you think that it's almost over after the Rumble, but
Yeah,
actually there's a bunch of shit that
there's
happens
an
after
hour
it.
left. Yeah.
It's
Um.
honestly the Rumble's like kind of the peak, and then we're kind of dealing
mm,
with the fallout of the Rumble, and then until people start dying again, more people die.
yeah.
I do
Uh,
see a quick mention. I'll let you finish, but I wanted to bring this up and I forgot. Everyone keeps talking about the shot of a puddle that has Ansel Elgort standing in it, and they're just saying like it's the best shot of the movie, and it's the most amazing thing they've ever seen.
I'm trying to remember
I
the shot.
vaguely remember it, but I honestly barely remember it. But
Yeah,
I
I'd have
do
to like
remember
look.
some pretty shots, so I don't
Yeah,
doubt
the
it.
whole movie's gorgeous, like outright. Uh, there's so much to appreciate from this from cinematography standpoint, especially for somebody who wants to try doing more hard lighting. As so else, let's say, I don't gaff anymore that much, but when I was doing it a lot, most of the DPs, everybody just wants soft light. Everyone's afraid of hard light. But what you can do with these new cameras, just fucking shine, give it all the light in the world. It just looks so good.
Blow it out, baby. Blow it out.
Yeah, it's so good. Ugh.
Um So are we ready to score West Side Story 2021 or what?
Yeah. I'm ready to score. I'm
Uh,
at I would say as a film and a production and everything, I'm gonna give it a 4. But
wow.
as a musical and all that, just because it drags a lot in the last act and everything, I would give it like for overall, just my take on the musical, I'd probably give like a three and a
Well, it's
half,
not about the
3.
musical. It's not about the
Yeah,
musical. It's about
yeah,
the
yeah.
movie. This is about West Side Story 2021.
Yeah, I don't know. I give it a 4. I get the hype. And for a musical to get me to actually like it and have enjoyable thoughts about it and everything like that, it says something for me at least.
Yeah, I think I think it is good, a good modern musical adaptation in a time where people I think don't think people want to see modern musical adaptations.
Mm.
Um, I gave it a 3.5. It didn't blow me away. I kind of felt I was feeling meh about some things, and maybe it was out of comparison to the original. I have big boy love for the old one. And nothing like I'm gonna rate it something crazy, but
Mm.
I think I like the old one better. I think this is good, and I think I wish I could smash the things I like about each of them together. It's kind of one of those things. It's kind of like
Mm.
the Batman, where I loved a lot about it, but I also like different things about other Batman, and it's not
Yeah.
my perfect Batman. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with it. I think that can wrap it up. Let's move to West Side Story 1961. And we don't have to spend nearly as much time on this, but I wanted to at least. I feel like we had to watch it. At first, we were
Mm.
talking about maybe we should, maybe we should. It's not that big of a deal. Everybody's seen it, blah blah blah. But I'm honestly really glad that he did, because I think that I wouldn't have appreciated. There's things about the new one that I appreciate because of it, but there's also so much I appreciate about this old one.
Mm.
This is some of the best choreography I've ever seen in a movie. Um, and just like and I love these big wide shots where there's like big
Mm.
groups dancing. There's like the movements are really big and their arms are going up and their legs are kicking and they're spinning around and they're
Mm.
and it's just like the energy and the way the movie does have this kinetic flow to it because of the dancing. And it's honestly the dancing is what carries you from. I feel like through the songs. When I
Mm.
get fatigued by a song, I am entertained by this amazing choreography. Whereas I think in the new one, um, they don't have as much choreography. So then I'm just sitting here with the song and just watching this person sing the song, and it's more about
Mm.
how they shot the song. Does that make this
Yeah.
relies on the choreography? Like the weight of
Mm.
this film is on its performances and on its choreography and the music in the songs. Whereas the new
Yeah.
one the weight of it is very much put on the cinematography and the way it's shot, and the casting, and the colorfulness of it, the vibrancy. And yeah, I keep thinking about there's these cool ass angles, and you just get like there's a specific shot. I saw a picture of it, but I don't have it ready. I should have saved it, and it was like through. It was from the side of one of these apartment buildings, and it was like through a grate, like a handrail, and there was just a shot of them dancing, and it was static, but it was like this weird angle. It wasn't quite Dutch, but it was like from the side and low, and they just have this like extended shot of them dancing. I was just like, man, this looks so fucking cool and hip, and just the color. And this movie is also incredibly colorful. And you got to think, I think this is something that people sleep on, but if you, and it's something I've discovered more as I've learned about films pre-70s, is once they color TVs and color movies, and what color movies were a thing, like filmmakers were all about trying to add so much color to everything. Like everyone's wearing bright clothes, and there's bright sets and bright, umbrellas and awnings, and everything's red and blue and pink and whatnot. And this is very much like that. Like Bernardo's wearing red, Riff wears yellow. There's a lot of people wearing purple. Like purple is definitely a color that's kind of associated with the Jets, the Sharks. And yellow is very much a color associated with the Jets. Tony wears yellow. A lot of them, it looks like it's part of a school uniform, but it just keeps popping up again and again. Some fun facts about this cast. So I already mentioned Rita Moreno. The guy who plays Riff in this one is also from Twin Peaks. There's several actors in this movie that are also in Twin Peaks. Riff plays Dr. Jacoby in Twin Peaks. You have only seen the first few episodes, so it's kind of lost on you. But boy, when I found this out, it blew my mind. Also, Richard Beymer, who plays Tony in this one, is also in Twin Peaks, and he plays Mr. Horn. And he runs the Horn's department store and the lodge and all that. He's like a main character, and they're a lot older. They're in their 50s in Twin Peaks, and it's just wild to see. What great casting, because they're excellent actors, and just like I saw, I saw West Side Story in music class when I was in middle school, and then I saw Twin Peaks when I was in college, and just like putting that together was such a fucking mind fuck. But also, in addition to the Twin Peaks actors, Natalie Wood, who plays Maria, and she is most, I think, known besides West Side Story and her work as an actress, but she was murdered, and they never found who murdered her. Actually, she died, and I don't think it even was like. The events surrounding her death there's a bunch of conflicting statements. Apparently Christopher Walken was with her when it happened. It was in 1983 or 1981. I'm sorry. And it's a pretty wild story. They've done so many like documentaries on it and whatnot. You can go and it's all over Wikipedia. But it's a really, really fascinating thing. It's like a Hollywood legend. It's considered like one of the big Hollywood legends. So that's another interesting thing. And then obviously Rita Moreno. So moving on from just the cast in that sense, is there is a lot of blackface in this movie, or brownface, I guess would be the better term. There are several members of the Sharks who are white people or just not Puerto Rican that they darkened their face and they casted them as the Puerto Ricans in this film. In addition to that, yes, Bernardo, for example, is Greek. The actor who plays Bernardo in this.
Interesting.
And they did darken his face, and you can tell because some of their faces are very splotchy.
That
Bernardo's
makes sense.
particularly is like a weird color.
Yeah,
Um,
I remember when they're doing the war council at docks, specifically, I remember seeing a guy on the Sharks that I thought to myself, like, "That just looks like a white guy," and I know that sounds bad, but that's like, that makes so much more sense now.
yeah, like
Wow.
they could just get an Italian guy and just darken him a little bit, and there you go. And
Yeah.
in addition to that, there are the actual Puerto Rican people in the cast. Rita Moreno is Puerto Rican. They darkened her skin as well.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, she's talked
Gee.
about it a lot, and yeah, there's specific shots you can see of her, and her skin is very splotchy. Um, and I think that's why they tried to do the character right with the new one, and I think they went with they tried to cast somebody like a Afro Latina background, to kind of make up for some of these things. And I think they even made Rita Moreno the shopkeeper instead of this old white guy, and they did try to
Mhm.
add a little more things to it. But yeah, Rita Moreno's skin is much lighter in the new movie than the old movie, and that would be why. It's not just from getting older. So yeah, that is kind of one of the problematic things. As much as this film is about racism and and just people from different backgrounds living together, there it was problematic at its time for as progressive as it was. And I'm sure I didn't really look into like people's reasonings or why. Rita Moreno said they didn't even tell her why they were doing it. She just thought it was makeup for the movie, and that and next thing she knew, she was like significantly darker. She was like bronzer or something.
Oh, jeez.
Um,
They're like, "Oh, it's just, just make it look good on camera." Um,
um, but I mean, beyond that, I'm ready, and we can move on. But I wanted to. It's like pretty much you have to mention it when you talk about this film. And as much as
yeah.
I glow over it, I think these kinds of decisions ultimately hold it back. Um, then then are they're not excusable.
Mhm.
Um, but there is a lot to enjoy and take away from the film, and I do honestly like how much it feels like a stage, and it is a product of being a 60s film. That they had a lot of variety films with like dancing numbers, and there were a lot of more sets. Everything was on a set, and there were very simple sets that were
Mhm.
pretty much stages, and it was more tied to those kinds of movies. So it's not like it was trying to, but it does like there's ways things are blocked and there's ways things are shot, and it just like makes it feel like a theater experience, a stage
Mhm.
experience, and I do like that. I think that's something that doesn't hurt it, but it is something that is cool about the new one thing. It's just a different style choice, and I think they both work. Um,
Yeah, I like that the original was in putting more on the screen with it rather than relying on the camera work or whatever. It definitely feels bigger for being a essentially a two-dimensional kind of movie because it's still shot
all these
seemingly like
and these
uh
super wide shots.
yeah, it's shot like a musical still, like a stage. But then you have these nice moments where you have I can't remember one of the scenes that was midway through the movie where Tony's just like walking down the street singing, and the camera's tracking with him walking down the street, and so it's like you
Oh
get these little
yeah,
glimpses
yeah.
of
I think it's
of dynamic
Maria.
movement. Um, yeah, it might be
I
Maria.
just met a
Um,
girl named Maria. Sorry.
um, and it's cool seeing those like little glimpses of what it could, what it could do or what was, um, or things. I was like, all right, well, it's cheap to do this. If all of the money went into certain aspects of the production, so we can still have these moments like this, or like, man, if you could have just given these guys like a jib for some of the dance numbers, how cool, you could have got,
Doing some,
because of how
some
much more many people and intricate the dance numbers and stuff are.
But honestly, it reminds me of I can't believe I'm gonna bring up this movie, but I'm gonna bring up Climax because it also has some of my favorite
Oh.
choreography in a film. That movie's shot in like different dance numbers are shot differently, but some of them are just like static, stay this
Mm,
kind of angle, so you can get everyone in the number in the shot, and you can
yeah.
see everything. It's blocked for how it would be on a stage, and I like that because able to really take in all of it. I think because of the way the new one is shot, it's closer. You don't have the room to fit all these people in the screen, so the dance numbers don't feel as big, and they aren't as long, and you only get these little brief moments of it. But I think it's
I will
products of their
I will
time,
say, yeah, I will say though that speaking about the dancer, that I think that the dance number in the gym in the new one, I like more
Yes, I agree.
than everything in both of these. It is
Everything.
so good, especially when they cut to the Sharks and you have Anita and Bernardo, and all of the dress flapping looks so vibrant and it's so dynamic and it's so energetic. And
I re-
because you've got like the Tool dueling circles on their own sides, and Chino gets in the middle, and everything just ramps in together. It's so it's so much fun. It's so much
I
fun to
do
watch.
I do like the new one a lot, and I think that is one of the best parts. But I really love the intro of the old one, the opening sequence, and just how it looks and the angles and the dancing, and it's iconic to me. But I don't know, this isn't like, and I don't know if it's anybody's favorite part, but I just keep thinking about the Cool Boy number and the old one where they're in that part like bus depot or like van depot. It's a bunch of like UPS trucks, and they turn on the lights one by one, and they're like dancing, and like the lighting keeps changing because they turn it on more and more headlights of these cars. And I just
Yeah.
it looks so, and it's stage lighting. Like it's not like it's anything crazy for the actual lighting, but the concept of it, I really loved. Like that, like they're trying to set up these stages, but they are 3-dimensional, and they are like walking around 360, and the camera does go on different angles, but it's just not like the new one where
Yeah,
it's
no.
swinging and moving and in and out and up and down, and it's doing everything. But I do appreciate that about the old one. That scene in particular is just an example of like doing a lot with not a lot at the same time. Like it's still ultimately just they're doing the stage number in this big open room. But yeah, I don't really have a whole ton else to say about it. Is there anything else you want to say?
I I I I like that the story makes more sense because um, Tony's not on parole, and I like Tony and Maria a lot. Original. Um, I like their chemistry. I like Tony's singing better than Ansel's. I definitely like his acting. He's way more charming and more.
He's a little
You
goofy
know.
though, them big old teeth, and like there's
Yeah. He
something
is.
about him that I like. That it's like it makes him seem like a nice boy. Like he's a good
Yeah.
kid. He's a good kid inside of in a gang. This is the person that came out of the environment that he was in, but he's ultimately a good
Yeah.
kid. And I think I do feel that about both of them. But there's something about Ansel because I think he's
'Cause he
older.
lurks.
He's
He lurks
older,
emotion.
but he seems more like I've seen shit. I've done shit. Whereas Richard Bamer seems more like a little bit bright and shiny. Definitely, like he's smarter than the people in the gang, but everybody's very naive because they're kids and they're trying to
Yeah,
deal
like
with like heavy topics.
yeah, like the original Tony, like he grew up essentially before everybody else in the group. But new Tony's like, I killed a man with his bare hands. Run away with me. I killed your brother too. Run away with me.
I'm gonna
After he
kill
lurks,
you.
I lurk in gymnasiums and show up outside your window. I'm Ansel Elgort.
Um,
Yeah, I yeah. That's all I got on that.
Ansel Elgort. All right. So what are we giving the old one?
Um, I like the new one better. I'm giving the old one a 3.5.
I'm giving the new one or the old one a 4 because I like the old one better.
Interesting. I mean, they're both great. They both are excel in their own way, and I'm so visually driven that the new one.
I think the new one is
Rip.
designed more for a modern audience, and I think I have just a little bit more of a taste for some of that old shit. Old like I don't know music. I'm just more of a musical person, so and I think the old one is more like a musical. So that would make
Yeah, I'd
sense why
agree with
you
that.
are more you like the new one. There's nothing wrong with that. But all right, so let's talk about a movie that people talk about a lot. Um, and honestly, I don't think they
Did you?
talk about it though as much as they used to. As much as like when we were young, this movie gets referenced in so much pop culture.
Oh my god,
Um,
I didn't
s-
had no idea. Had no idea until
oh
watching this
yeah, there's
movie.
one particular thing that I want to bring up to you that I know we know the reference, but didn't know where it came from.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know exactly what you're gonna say too. I to a
and
T, I already know what you're
I
gonna
was
say.
trying to Google it all morning and find a picture, and I couldn't. I had the picture from the movie, but not from where it came. Our reference.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, this movie is fucking genius. And it is fucking fantastic. The first time I saw it, I don't think I fully appreciated it. I think maybe because I was like, oh, these effects are dated and nothing's really happening. And I kind of poo-pooed it a little bit, but this time I was completely enthralled. I was like, this is a perfect kind of movie. I was appreciating. I think, did I talk about this before the show? But no, I did it in the intro about how hopeful, like, it is not. It's like a hopeful
Mhm.
science fiction movie. There are some questions about the decisions of some of our characters, and I think that it's purposeful.
Mm.
But I think ultimately there is a lot of hope in the story, and that's what makes it so interesting. Is it's just like people, it's like the wonders of discovery, you know. That I think that phrase probably sums up the essence, the energy that this film is going for. It's also incredibly epic, but at the same time it doesn't really get that big until
Oh
the
yeah, I
end.
was
The
gonna
ending
say
sequence is so big, but before that it's not. It's a pretty small feeling movie. It's just
yeah.
like the way that they use costumes and set and like the different locations, it makes it feel big, like you're part of this global phenomenon.
Yeah, I feel like I didn't really feel the big or the stakes until the mothership at the very end, and then it was just like, oh, whoa, because all the spaceships you see up before then, or I'm sitting there I was like, man, that just looks like the size of a Cadillac, like that just looks like not that big when they had it like when like the first police chase in the beginning, and then at the end scene, um, but I love the like they give you the spaceships, like, right away, and I was shocked about that. I was
But
not
they, but they,
expecting them to tease it,
th-
but as
but they
after
don't
that.
show you that's not like the real spaceship. I think it's a
Oh, I know,
tease.
yeah,
You
but
don't
going in,
know
like,
it's a
for first time
tease.
watching, yeah, so it was like, "Oh, man, they're just showing me straight up." That's kind of a I didn't know it was gonna be like this kinda I was expecting it to be more of a drip feed, but then after that, it kinda is, because then it goes way more, back to the ominous stuff, with just, like, the clouds and just the lights, um but, there's just so many moments in this that were, like, besides the references, just, like, so interestingly done, but at the same time, I got confused in the beginning of the movie when it was cutting back between the mother and her son Barry and, the
The
main guy's
scientist.
family, the sign or
Oh, oh, oh.
the main sunburned guy and his family, and I
The
think it
two,
was just
so
a
like the
matter
two
of
different families. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
yeah.
it was two separate stories that were coming together, and but they were both. It was like because there was the whole ending. He's like talking about the scientist guy, the French one, is like, oh,
Mm,
these ordinary people are having extraordinary experiences, and they're all drawn to this place, and it is like kind of cool to see all these other average Joes that we did, like Larry Butler. Larry Butler. He like says his name like four times. Hey, the name's Larry Butler, and I seen it too. Um, and but like there's these other people that are having these stories and experiences, but we only see it from these two people.
mm,
And once it comes together, we find out there was like even more people that were going through this, and it's not like it's just like Richard Dreyfuss and Melinda Dillon are super special. Like there's a bunch of people, and this spaceship, these aliens are inviting people to come here, and are calling them, and so we're like seeing these two separate people's like, different experiences, and then they come together and it resolves.
mm.
I do really like that because it's like this there's a sense of mystery, and there's a definitely revelations of information and just like what is going on, what do the aliens want. I think there's definitely an initial feeling that maybe they're bad, because they steal the kid, um,
Mhm.
but
It was definitely that. Because what I got confused specifically was it was like, it was the house it was Richard Dreyfuss's family, and his wife answers the phone. Is like, hey, you gotta go out, and the work's calling for you. It's Earl on the phone, and then it cuts to the mother in the woods shouting for Barry. But for some reason, I just saw like we just seen like his wife was blonde, and we say like a blonde lady in the dark with a flash, and I was like, who the hell is Barry? Why the hell is his wife out in the thing? And then she seems lost, and then it cuts to Richard Dreyfuss, who was lost driving around. And I was like, did I just like completely blank out a scene here? But it was just me being dumb.
Yeah, I didn't have a
But
problem. I didn't have an issue with that, but because I think I do agree. Like, I wasn't sure if it took me a second to tell the difference between Terry Garr and Melinda Dillon. Terry Garr is who plays Richard Dreyfuss's wife, and she. So I wasn't, and then I was like, oh, I know Terry Garr. She's in Young Frankenstein and After Hours, and that's the different actress. So as soon as I realized that they're different actresses, then I realized there was different stories. But
yeah,
but what about we didn't talk about the scientist, because I think that is what makes it feel epic, but also it doesn't feel huge. Like, if you really look at what's happening, it's not that huge, but like the scientists going to these different places around the world, and they
yeah,
find
yeah.
these lost aircraft, and then they find this big ass ship in the middle of a desert, and
They're
like
completely
that
intact.
it
Like,
just it starts to feel like the scale is just getting so big, and like we're
mhm.
like we're around the world. 1 minute we're in Indiana, 1 minute we're in Mongolia, and then we're in India, and then we're at a conference with the UN, and it does feel big to me. And I think that's what's interesting. But then you don't see it, like you don't see what's really big, and that's at the end when everything comes together at the mountaintop. It's all waiting for us at the top of this plateau, and which is hilarious. In the middle of the film, everyone obsesses over this plateau, and Richard Dreyfuss tears his fucking yard apart and his house apart. And it's funny because he's into miniature trains and stuff, and then he makes a miniature one, and then he just like gets real crafty, and like it kind of like the train thing kind of explains. Like how he's good at making he's like, you gotta make a structure, a sculpture, a 3D sculpture to truly understand. He said it to Larry Butler at the end, because they all know about it. Because like once they get to the
Yeah, yeah.
plateau in the end, they're like, oh, we gotta go here because there's this 300-foot drop or 30-foot drop over there. Like they all know this place intimately, though they've never been there.
I will say I was disappointed that it wasn't actually at the top of the plateau. It was behind it at the mid-level basin. Because when you see the poster and stuff, and you see the top of the plateau and everything, it's like this is the landing pad. But then in reality, it's just like this coved out little section of the army and the UN
Well,
people.
and then there's like
Um,
it's like somewhat hidden. It's not like obvious. There's a shitload of
yeah,
people on
yeah.
top of the thing.
On top of it, yeah.
Um,
But because I just kept thinking about Independence Day and I was like, oh, maybe
Oh my
Independence Day
god!
got
Oh
that
my
from this.
god! This
Um,
movie definitely established. Like, I'm sure that a lot of the tropes of alien films come from B movies and science fiction novels and stuff. But boy, the whole bright white light and the gravity and like so much of X-Files and Independence
mhm.
Day reminded me of this. Like this walked so they could run kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and just like the special effects are pretty amazing for the late 70s. I mean, this is around Star Wars time, and I think this it isn't quite as crazy as Star Wars, but it's still really really good. um
Now, I watched the director's cut. Has that had redone special effects? Because I feel like some of the look like new CG, like new like 90s ish CGI versus 70s.
I don't think so. I watched the original cut. Mine was the 2 hour 15-minute one.
No, there's
um
only 2 minutes more in the director's cut. But
no, I don't think so. Not that I've seen.
because I know that Lucas and Spielberg like went back and redid a lot of their movies, like the walkie talkies in ET
I
and
don't. I don't think Spielberg does anything with effects though. I think that's more. What's his
Lucas.
name's? Apparently that the UFO at the end was inspired by the models used in Star Wars, which makes perfect sense. Star Wars definitely changed people's ideas of what spaceships will look like. Just like they're instead of them being like smooth, sleek, like cylinders or saucers. They're like, they're jagged, and there's all these metal doodads, devices and things
Mm.
in and out. Like I think it's Star Destroyers or the Death Star.
They're built more practically in their design rather than just assuming like a sleek thing can do it all.
Yeah, like the technology's so far advanced that they don't need that kind of shit. It's just all aerodynamic, perfect. Um,
Exactly. They're
yeah, it
so
makes
advanced.
things feel lived in when you do that kind of stuff. That kind of when things are not perfect, they feel more realistic, less like I don't know, like softened. Like the edges are
Yeah.
softened,
Yeah.
But all right, but the visual effects are great. I really like the sense of scale. I think I want to talk a little bit about the cast. Richard Dreyfuss, apparently, Steven Spielberg did not want to cast him in this film, even though that Richard Dreyfuss basically talked Spielberg into casting him while they were filming Jaws, and and Richard Dreyfuss is excellent in Jaws. I think he's probably even better, but that's really funny. Apparently, he wanted Jack Nicholson, but Jack Nicholson turned it down. I thought that was funny.
Interesting. Oh man, that would change the whole dynamic of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be crazy, but he's like his chaos would be so much different. Richard Dreyfuss is a bit more
Yeah, like
lovable. Is a more lovable idiot in this one, and
yeah,
I
for
like it.
sure. I agree because I feel like if
He's the energy of an average Joe. Like he's short. He's like a little.
Mm.
It's like a little stocky,
do you imagine if Jack Nicholson brought in like his Shining crazy into it? Just how
Yeah,
ridiculous.
no. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why Spielberg wanted him though. Is like channel that kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So the lead scientist, the Frenchman, Claude Lacombe, is played by Francois Truffaut. Does that name ring a bell to you at all?
It's not.
So Francois
Wait,
Truffaut.
wait, hold on. Oh, Truffaut. I thought you said Trudeau, and I was like, wait, is he the father of the Prime Minister
Oh
of
my
Canada?
God, no! God, idiot. France.
What? Truffaut and Trudeau sound similar.
Yeah, tomato. Francois Truffaut is a French director and is considered widely regarded as one of the founders of the French New Wave movement, and has a bunch of films that are supposed to be important. I haven't seen any of them, of course. Looks like most of his work is in the 60s and 70s. Several Cannes nominated things. He did a Fahrenheit 451 movie, it says. That's interesting. Nothing to say about that? Hello?
I mean, that's super cool. Sorry, I'm looking at his filmography with you. See if I knew any of them, but no, I don't know any of them. But that's cool though. I wonder what I wonder like why if it's Spielberg wanted him or they're just friends or what or how he ended up in like one of the like the lead roles, not lead, but the one of the main supporting roles.
Mm-hmm. The translator who he says he's like I'm a cartographer, but I do know French. Because
I love
Bob
that guy.
Balaban, he's a writer, and a comedic actor. He was in the French Dispatch in a really small role. He's in a bunch of other Wes Anderson films. He's kind of in a bunch of. He's like a kind of a character actor and a writer. But I want to at least mention him because this is probably the earliest movie I've ever seen him in, and I kind of he's like an interesting guy, and I'd like to know more about him. But
I love the line where he's just like, "Well, before you paid me to speak French, I did this," and like for doing the coordinate scene. He's just like has a sass because he's like not doing what he was like meant to do.
yeah, they're not paying him to do map things to do
Yeah.
cartography. He is
I
not
like
the
maps,
silent.
goddammit.
He's not a silent cartographer, that's for sure. Oh yeah, bad joke.
Halo.
All right. Well, so we kind of talked about this pretty much all in its broad strokes. I do want to go a little bit in depth on the ending part because it is like the most memorable thing. The other scenes that are really memorable as the shot with the boy in the doorway and it's like the glowing orange. There's like I've seen that shot in so many things over the years. reference? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. It's right before he gets abducted. Are you
Yes.
talking about the doggy door one, or the first time when he opens the
The
door
first
before the
time when he
monster?
opens the door. Yeah, I have it on the screen right now, but yeah, the that is pretty crazy and pretty iconic. But I wanted to talk about the reference that we were talking about earlier. So when we were kids, we used to watch a show, a cartoon called Rocco's Modern Life, and
Yes.
there's a character called Filbert. And Filbert, when he reached a certain age, is like a puberty kind of thing. He was called back to the Galapagos Islands, and that was supposed to be they have some kind of like coming of age event. But so he would try to resist it, and he didn't want to go. Like he asked Rocco, and then to lock him up, and he goes crazy, and they get a bunch of I don't know if they got like takeout or he goes into the
It was a
fridge
it was a
and
cake, a massive cake thing, like with pineapples and things on it.
yeah, it was a
Like
massive cake, and he starts carving it, and then he's like, "There's soy sauce." He starts getting all the shit to make it look like the Galapagos Islands, and of course, the Galapagos Island model in this cartoon looks exactly like the sculpture that Richard Dreyfuss makes in his house.
Devil's
Um,
Stone.
the Devil's Tower, I think is what it's called.
I thought it was called Devil's Stone.
No, it's Devil's Tower. And um, yeah, hilarious. When I saw this the first time, I was like, I was like, loved it, loved it, loved it. Um, the other thing that is
Yeah.
really interesting is, I don't think this is at a time when music was changing and synthesizers were becoming more and more a normal thing. Late 70s is definitely, I think, when the synthesizer fad really started taking off and new wave was coming on. And so like there's a lot of electronic music and like mixing math and science with music and art and color, like because like um sounds are frequencies and color is frequencies, and they're doing this like sign language thing where like you could do visual like hand motions for sounds and certain notes and whatnot. It's all really really cool, but it's also like I think really people were really interested in this stuff at the time, like color theory and music theory and mixing of these things and therapy
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, and then just being able to communicate through music I think was really interesting. Like that's how the aliens talked was through these tones,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, super cool. And then the ending is this really great climax. It kind of like the movie probably could have ended at the 2 hour mark, but it just really lets you live in this moment for like an extra
Yeah.
15 minutes, and it's worth it. Like you're just mesmerized by what's happening, and you're just like, what you want, you have questions even then, like what is going on, and like you find out that all these old all these people that were missing were on the alien ship and they're sent off, and then then they're like, okay, what happens next? Like Roy's trying to go with them, Richard Dreyfuss, and he's like
Yeah.
he wants to get on the ship, and then we find out that there's this team of astronauts that they are putting together, and then they're gonna try to send them up on the ship. And Richard Dreyfuss, like they just like put him in a spacesuit because he seems to be
Yeah.
chosen. Um, and I get it because the scientists seem to have more control than the military does, and
Mm-hmm.
which is maybe that is also a
Fair.
reverse of a lot of modern science fiction where the military
Yeah.
is kind of in control. Even like I think of Day of the Dead, like the military's in control
Mm.
over the science and the social people. Um,
The I
yeah, go
want to
ahead.
say about that whole thing though is Richard Dreyfuss. What an arc he goes for, like because he when he leaves for Wyoming, he's still like he is visibly upset that his wife is like left him with the kids and stuff like that and everything. He's just like, I just have to do this, and everything's gonna be fine. And then you get to when they're on top of the mountain, and he just like kisses the mom, Barry's mom, before leaving. I was like, I thought you wanted your wife and kids back. And then he gets there and he's like, you know what? Leaving it all behind. I'm getting on that ship. And I was like,
So
man,
that is
giving his kids fatherless.
so that is the thing that I had questions about when I watched this film the first time and this time is like, so there's a lot of sadness like watching Roy kind of tear his family apart with this thing. And like he's going through a real thing, and it's like, yeah, his family's doubting him, but like what do you expect them to do? Like he's acting crazy. And like his son is crying at the dinner table and
Yeah, yeah.
like calling him names like you're a crybaby, and that kid never comes back for the rest of the movie once they leave. And I just like
Mm.
feel bad, and like it's like, oh well, they didn't like me anyways, or they didn't want me or something, but you're the dad. Like you just abandoned your sons, your kids.
I'm
um
just guessing that like the flash that happened that he drove him, and then once seeing it in person, it was just like a nothing else exists in this moment type of
Yeah,
thing.
like this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. Like you don't. It's not like I'm frustrated with it. I think it's actually
yeah.
interesting. It's not this like as much as I think that the movie is hopeful and positive about the aliens. It is
Mm.
not very positive about Roy. Roy loses his job. Roy loses his family. Roy loses his entire life for this shit. And but he
Family gets no
ultimately was
closure.
right. It's kind of some weird, probably maybe thing about like, your family should be supportive even if you're acting crazy, because what if you're right? Like it kind of validates nutso conspiracy people maybe a little bit,
I
but
I I was taking it more as like, is your end goal worth leaving everything else behind? I guess, and because in most of the cases, it's usually not, and like those kind of like parables or
this is
whatever.
just like a whole
But
once in a lifetime chance,
yeah,
to you don't even know what's
hang out
gonna
with a bunch
happen.
of
He could
2 foot tall
go up there and
aliens.
get probed or killed or whatever.
Yeah,
um
I liked the spaghetti alien, the one that was like super stringy and slender. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah. I
care for
honestly
the little
loved. I like the
children's.
aliens. Period. Like I know they're mostly puppets, or like little people in costumes and things, but they look really good. Like this movie has a ton of practical effects, but it also has like the lights and stuff. Like it's not all practical, but it holds up. It holds up. And
Yeah,
like
just
like
so
it's obviously it's a '70s movie, but I think the choices that they made like make it like all the lights and the glowing and like how everything in the house was shaking and the shit was turning on, like that was pretty big deal for its time, and it still works because of the way that they did it. They didn't show you too much even though they showed you stuff.
I wanted to say on that note, and we forgot to mention it for West Side Story, was man, watching old fucking movies in 4K is insane. How they really did have it all figured out, how to do lighting, all of the shit back then. Because rewatching that stuff now, when you have it as it was meant to be seen in the pure clarity, this stuff holds up so well that it's like the only reason it's lit the way it was is just to make sure your crappy television at home could still like
Yeah,
show the
yeah,
proper
because
color
it's
and
so low
contrast. Like,
res. Yeah, the colors are
but
bad.
even
And
but it's still so like clean and good, and like even though there is a lot of grainy in this and some of the dark parts, but like uh, it's still
it's
blessed, but it holds up so well. Like this definitely this and West Side Story passes something that was made in like the late '80s.
Yeah, I mean they simultaneously look of their time, but also look ahead of their time because of some of the like because they're influential or maybe
Yeah,
groundbreaking techniques or and whatnot. Because like this, Jaws don't look like this. I know Jaws is a good like few years before, but
it's like
Jaws
2 or
looks
3.
older. And this looks like a more this is a post Star Wars film for sure.
Yeah, the first thing I said after watching this was like, wow, this is while I was watching it. Sorry, was so this is what a movie is supposed to look like when you give it a great budget in the '70s. Because it's just so for how big it is too. It works so well. Um,
But it doesn't feel like like it's big, but it's small at the same. I think that's what
I
makes
meant
it hit. No, I'm
like
not correcting you. I'm just saying that's what
yeah,
makes the movie special. Is it's like
mm,
it feels quiet and small, and we're getting just the picture keeps zooming out as the film goes on until we are looking at the universe. And I think I think modern movies sometimes try to throw so much at you so fast, that you can't really, like you get desensitized to it all. You don't have a chance to
yeah.
process and feel something about things. And this movie takes its time, but it's so perfectly paced. I wasn't bored at all. I'm interested throughout. It's just a it's definitely one of the best films ever for a reason, and I get that.
Yeah, it is definitely set the stage for sci-fi. Like I know Star Wars did in a different way, but how this does, like the
And
like
2001:
you
A
were saying,
Space Odyssey too is probably even before
yeah,
that.
but like you were saying with the X-Files and stuff like that, like it feels more like this and in line with this
Yeah,
than
it took it another step
other stuff.
forward. Like it's foundational film to
Yeah,
the genre, just like
yeah,
Star Wars or 2001.
yeah,
Um, yeah, absolutely. And ET is too, but I think ET is definitely has a lot of connective tissue with this film vibe. It's a little more
mm,
kid oriented, but it's still like a very similar story. What it's trying to do, and the government is the government's more the bad guy, I guess, trying to
yeah.
stop the kid from hanging with his alien buds. But
I would even say that the just in tone and everything, ET has lower lows, like from an emotional standpoint, for
yeah, I
sure.
guess so. You're right. This is a
Like when
more
ET
like
dies and
even
the lab
keeled.
coat and everything is like the saddest shit you've seen that year. And then this didn't really like, other than Richard Dreyfuss losing his family, but he is done in a way that you don't really care at the same time
He
because
seems so
you're,
detached at that point.
yeah,
Like it doesn't even matter to
that's
him.
exactly. And so as an audience member, I like also don't care then. It's like, all right, well, I guess this is just supposed to be. We're about mountains now. We're plateaus. Um, but
What do you have anything
yeah.
else you want to talk about this movie?
I'm trying to think if I have anything else. The definitely the one thing. Man, oh man, do I love about old movies is when you have the cool guy sunglass shot. But not only does a cool guy have it, everyone on the fucking launch or landing pad has
I was
cool
thinking
guy
about too,
sunglasses on,
because those
and
were
it
just
is
like
so funny.
those were military sunglasses at the time. Like it was literally
Yeah,
what everybody wore.
I know, but
Um,
every single person in the shot is wearing badass aviators and looking like
the
just
identical. They probably handed them out because they all look
yeah,
identical. I mean, like not like even in the like in the lore of the film, like they probably
yeah,
just handed every out for safety.
yeah. It's gonna be bright.
Whereas
He's
today they
brave
probably
for
would
this.
just handed out cheap plastic,
Yeah,
Wayfarers or something, or even probably
but
cheaper as
yeah.
shit than that. Um,
Well, I liked it. It was good. I thought it was a little cheesy, but like, obviously it's of the time, but it was fun in that because like the fucking ramps coming down. This is before any of the people even come off, and
yeah,
everyone's
it's a very Spielberg feeling thing, I think, because
mm,
there's always a little bit of humor in his stuff too. Like it's like light, but like even when there's even like Jurassic Park, even when there's like horror, there's like these moments of levity or like where people are people. Um, and there's a funness even with the seriousness or when it's heavy, and I think that's what makes these films so accessible to so many people.
yeah,
You're ready to score Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
yes, and I feel like I should give it a higher score, but I'm sitting on a 4, and I just feel I
Why?
don't know why.
Why? Well, then
I know
why?
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I enjoyed it, but I didn't. But I guess I didn't walk away like absolutely loving it or anything. It was but it's hard to when you're watching old movies and you have to have that you have to get away everything you've seen before because this started so many things.
I think
It's
it stands on its own though. It's got a different vibe than a lot of
yeah.
things. For the reasons I was saying in the beginning, I'm giving it a 4.5. I think that a 5 is also pretty acceptable as well. But I'm giving it 4.5. I think like I said, the first time I watched it, I wasn't like blown away, but this time, I don't know what it was, but I just like saw it. I was like, man, this is a fucking near perfect film. Arguably perfect film.
Yeah. I guess I didn't have any like real like we always talk about emotional attachment like this because this didn't really have like a low. It's pretty much its baseline is pretty like well, I'm sunburned and I'm on a whimsical adventure.
Well, I
And
think I have emotional attachment. I think to Roy and like what happens to Roy and like obviously I was concerned about the mom not getting her kid back, and
mm,
there's definitely emotional weight to all that. It's just this is not I think like a lot of people like, oh, emotional weight means I have to feel sad or feel like,
Mm.
and this movie isn't a sad movie. So, or even like in a happy, sad way, it's kind
Mm.
of, it's beautiful and it's an adventure and it's fun, but I think that's what makes it special. And I think that movies kind of have lost how to do this and still make it really good. I
Mm.
think people, when they try to make movies like this, it ends up being like focus grouped and watered down and
Mm.
just not. It's either too shallow and too accessible, or it's too. It's trying to do too much, and it makes it hard to. It's too unwieldy for a regular audience, whether
Yeah.
by length or by density.
Mm.
Power. Look at Power of the Dog. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think this is a great example of what makes Spielberg one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah. He's done so much good stuff. I was looking at his run in the early 2010s, where from The Adventures of Tintin to Bridge of Spies, all of those are Academy nominated for something.
Yeah, even if it's stuff that wasn't popular, he still was always in the mix. Though some of it is because of his name. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Spielberg make a film, we better put it in there because he's made how many hits?
Yeah, it's just interesting because he going to something like Warhorse, Lincoln, and Bridge of Spies. I guess they're like smaller, like going away from the blockbuster stuff.
Yeah.
For a good bit.
Well, that's he's just got so much range. I can't think of a filmmaker that has is the big blockbuster popular hits mixed with critical hits, indie films, big budget films. Like he's just done it all. And you got to take your hat off to an OG.
True. It's true. Pour one out. Not pouring out. He's not dead yet, but
Yeah, Jesus Christ, Kory. All right. So this was technically the beginning of our Oscar catch up, and I think we're gonna pour a little more Heinz on this shit next week, right?
mm-hmm. And we're doing what? Coda and Drive My Car.
Drive My Car. Well, I think we're gonna do all the rest of them we don't have because I think we have 3, right?
Yeah, King Richard, Drive My Car, and Coda are the 3 I believe that we're
I can't
missing.
believe King
Although
Richard was nominated for Best Picture.
Everybody said it was Oscar bait before it came out, but apparently it was Oscar bait enough.
But everyone said that about
Bird
Belfast.
is good. I swear, I think there might be a 4th one because we got what 2 more weeks till the Oscars. It's at the end of the month.
I'm pretty sure we have 3. I'm pretty sure we should only have 3. We had 4, but West Side Story I thought was the 4th.
Gotcha.
I'm double checking right now. Best Picture nominees: Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up. You have to watch Don't Look Up. I've already seen
That's it. I need to watch.
We're not going to do it in an episode, but we can talk about it briefly. I'm not going to put it in a title. So Coda, Drive My Car, and King Richard for me. But you also need Don't Look Up. God help you.
Jesus,
it's
movies.
fine to watch at home while you're farting around, like doing other things or hanging with your girl, your partner. But that's it. If I saw that movie in a theater, I'd probably hate it a lot more.
Don't Look Up.
Yes.
Isn't it long as fuck?
Yes, it's 2.5 hours.
Oh God, man, we just had 2.5 hours.
Yep. Well, you had your chance. You don't. Yeah, you should probably see Drive My Car before we do the Oscar episode, or not Drive My Car. Don't Look Up. So, yeah, you kind of build a backlog up for yourself there.
Well, I thought because we weren't doing it for the podcast, I was just gonna watch it whenever.
Well, we still need to. How can we do Oscar catch up?
I know.
It's just something you don't have to analyze and take notes on. Just put it on. Maybe you watch it tonight. It's a novel idea. But all right. I'll see y'all next week. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on all the things. Best Boys Film Pod on Instagram and Twitter. We're on Facebook. Make sure you leave a review if you can on iTunes or comment on YouTube. And I'm Slob Thomas on all those things. And Kory is at Kory with a story with a K. And we'll see you next week. You better get your ketchup out.
Oof.
Kory's fucked.
I've got 10 hours of movies to watch. Let's do this.